And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Leonardo Felisberto. I am the Global Head of Partnerships for SellersFunding. Very excited to be joined by two very special guests with me today. Anastasia she is a partner manager in tech for BigCommerce, and Mustafa, who is the Chief Revenue Officer for Avasam. We're going to be having a very open conversation today on how you can future-proof your business by going beyond the marketplace. Before we dive into the conversation, I'll quickly turn it over to Anastasia and Mustafa just to introduce themselves.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us, Leo. Really excited to be here together with both of our partners, SellersFunding and Avasam. Great relationships there on both sides. Really excited to spend the next hour speaking about how to take your business to the next level from a marketplace and talking about all things e-commerce and how to optimize that and how to make your online space better. In terms of what we do at BigCommerce, we're an e-commerce platform. We're one of the leading e-commerce platforms in the world. We specialize in pretty much everything and anything. So in terms of the industry and verticals, we work with fashion, automotive, you name it, health and beauty. We will be able to be the next home for your business in terms of your online sales. And the difference between, I guess, an e-commerce platform and a website, for those of you who might be tuning in and with lesser experience, is the fact that this is an engine to power your business online. We're definitely going to dig deep into the functionality and things like that later on the call. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Mustafa to present a little bit about what they do.
Thanks, Anna. Lovely to be here. Thank you, Leo, for inviting me to speak and really keen to share our insights. A little bit of background about me. So I am with Avasam. I've been in tech marketplaces for about 10, 15 years. And most recently, Avasam, we've launched 2 years ago. And we are a dropshipping platform. We are the UK's only verified dropshipping platform. And what that means for people who are not really so familiar with dropshipping, it's stockless retail fulfillment. It's when you're not holding inventory, but you can plug into our platform as a seller with your BigCommerce storefront, your marketplace storefronts, and you can source and list products from our marketplace of suppliers. And as soon as you get the orders through, the order passes through, payment passes through, and the order is dispatched. So you don't tie up capital in inventory. You don't have to stock in warehouses and go through the logistics pain, but you can expand the inventory and scale very seamlessly and in a very cost-efficient way. So I'm really excited to sort of share what our sellers have been seeing over the last 2 years and some of the trends and industry trends and data trends and the differences between marketplace selling and selling on your own web store. So thank you once again.
Absolutely amazing. Guys, I'm just going to do a bit of housekeeping in terms of to let you know how we're going to style things today. So we're actually going to keep it freestyle, which means that we really want to see your questions coming in the chat. Unfortunately, we are not able to see you and hear you, but we will definitely be following your messages in terms of commentary, any questions that you might be interested in addressing. We've posted a couple of links already in the chat for you to kind of keep an eye on or kind of read it as we are listening to us, a little bit more about the companies and what we're doing, and kind of follow, I guess, the conversation and the main points that we have prepared. But we really want to keep it conversational, as I said, so please don't be shy and waiting for FAQ session because there's not going to be such at the end. We want to keep the questions all throughout the session. So I'll be keeping an eye on those. We're also going to be asking each other questions, so it's not one moderator fits all, but if anything, we'll be basically both or three of us will be asking each other questions. But just to kind of, I guess, kick things off and to kind of set the scene, we really want to address, I guess, any issues in terms of how to fund your next step. We want to talk about how to choose a right platform. What platforms are out there to actually host this stuff? What's the difference between a marketplace and actually owning your own e-commerce platform? And how do they plug in if they do plug in? And how to really succeed online? You know, what does it take to succeed online? Whether you choose to be on your own platform or whether you choose to continue obviously selling on the marketplace, or perhaps both and go omni-channel, right? What does actually omni-channel mean? And obviously, what does that actually look like? Okay, so these are kind of the top level things we want to kind of dive into today to kind of give you a bit of opportunity to think about what do you actually want to do with your tech stack? What do you want to do with your business in 2022? And how do you take it to the next level? Okay. But I guess all things have a beginning. So I really want to understand from Leo first, like what is an actual evolution of a marketplace seller? What does that actually look? What does that entail?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, and I think it'll kind of help set the stage for the rest of our conversation, right? So we all know that sellers come in various shapes and sizes, and each e-commerce business journey is very unique. But typically, what we see is sellers tend to start on marketplaces because of its ease of use, right? Relatively low barrier to entry, low cost associated with getting a business up and running. And you may start off selling reselling, right? So that's kind of the pattern that we see emerging. So someone initially starting online, maybe just reselling products, maybe they're working with a wholesaler, but then as they kind of earn their stripes, so to speak, right, and they learn that model a little bit more, they'll potentially look to start selling their own products, right? So from a financing perspective, the way that we typically support these sellers kind of on that journey, early stage, it's going to be more kind of that operational cash flow that we're supporting, right? So day-to-day cash needs to really support their business and continue to help them get on the right path of growth, right? Or right track for growth. And then obviously, as I had said, as they start sourcing their own products, looking at being more of kind of a brand owner, private label seller on the marketplace, that's when you start to see more significant costs and investments go into their business, right? So that's where they may need a larger sum of capital to place that first purchase order, right, for an inventory, upcoming inventory, or maybe invest a little bit more in advertising, right, to be able to showcase this new brand that they're launching. So that's kind of how we see start to kind of them growing, and this is progression that we see over a matter of maybe 2 or 3 years as they kind of get their sea legs, so to speak, within the e-commerce world, within the marketplace.
Makes sense. So I guess that's really interesting that you say like it takes someone 2 to 3 years, I guess, to develop themselves on the marketplace. And I know, as a matter of fact, that obviously because we were having private conversations, that you see sellers of all sizes and all volumes. I know that you have some really prominent sellers in there. So at what point does one actually start thinking about e-commerce platform?
Exactly. So as they're kind of on this journey, right, of scaling their business and figuring out exactly what business model makes most sense to them, what we commonly find is as businesses start to have their own private label and start to experience some success, typically start to introduce additional complementary products to their suite. I think this is a good time to start considering also diversifying and introducing a direct-to-consumer channel, right? So an e-commerce platform. So this is an opportunity, I think, more than anything else, is for these sellers to be able to own their customers, right? Which is of critical importance and something that's very challenging for you to do if you just stick to a marketplace. So I think when you reach a point where your private label, you have your own brand that's growing, that's getting traction, and you have the ability to potentially cross-sell, and you want to be able to own your customer, to be able to retarget them, to be able to kind of build that relationship. This is typically where we see, as kind of the sweet spot for successful marketplace sellers to start considering their own e-com platform. So there are a couple of points initially to consider, and I'm sure you and Mustafa know this as well as I do, and our audience does, is there are a couple of key things to consider, right, when trying to enter kind of that channel specifically. So the most important thing is going to be cost of acquisition. Obviously, that's going to be significantly higher, right, because you're going from a platform marketplace, so to speak, that drives so much traffic organically to your business, to you having to generate that on your own, right? But the benefits of that, the light at the end of the tunnel, is very important and powerful. So that's why we see them, start on the marketplace as they kind of have their own brand, start to diversify away to be able to have that more one-on-one experience and relationship with their customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I want to take a little minute, actually, spurred an idea, like to actually explain what different e-commerce platforms out there. And for those of you who are a bit more experienced with e-commerce space as a whole, brace yourself while I do a little bit of introduction, I guess, to the e-commerce space. I actually have some slides that I want to share really quickly over here. Not too much, just something just like a little slide that will help me, I guess, take you through the kind of, I guess, explaining what an e-commerce platform is. So there is obviously about 500 e-commerce platforms out there that they call themselves e-commerce platform. They could range between a simple website, which is obviously the front end only, down to very, very complex things and custom built platforms, right? So when it comes to you deciding what's the right next step to move forward, what I would definitely 100% suggest is analyzing what is right for you in the sense of what will answer those capabilities and what will be the right place to host your products and host your business. So there's obviously 3 types of e-commerce platforms, and this is how they compete with one another. So by choosing one out of those 500 platforms, you really need to consider how you want to operate that platform. So traditionally, there's open source, there's software as a service, which is SaaS, a buzzword in the industry, of course, and a headless commerce, right? So what does that actually mean in simple language, right? So open source is where you have to go and write the code. So you'll probably have to hire an agency or hire someone in-house to actually come and write the code. The benefits of that is that you can have your platform made from scratch. So it will be unique to yourself. It will be customizable. You'll be able to basically add any level of kind of differentiation to it. The downsides, of course, is the fact that you're going to be continuously spending resources, finances on making sure that it operates well. You probably will not own your platform because obviously an engineer will have to own it, the backend, the changes and things like that. And I'm sure you've heard of several players out there who obviously dominate the space in this area. But once again, there's nothing right or wrong between those platforms. It's literally, as I said, capabilities that you want to get out of that. There's obviously SaaS option, which is out of the box solution, and I highly recommend adopting this route for anyone that is new to our platform, that's never done their own e-com platform before and only traded on a marketplace where obviously everything is in a SaaS space. So it will be a really nice light transition from what you already have to actually owning your own store and putting your products on your own store. And what that means, what does actually out of the box mean? I always love to give an example of Apple. I think they've done a fantastic job with their product. It's literally like downloading an app where everything is preset for you. Everything is pre-done for you. So you literally can just download and start making money pretty much straight away. Okay. And then obviously there's a fancy headless commerce, which is obviously the new thing that's kind of originated about 5 years ago in the industry, something that we specialize in massively, which means basically you can add this route to any of the above to make it extra special in terms of customization. Once again, I'm not going to bore you with tech language today. I'm going to keep it nice and top level. Do reach out if you want to obviously dig deeper into how does that actually work. So what do BigCommerce actually do? We actually combine the best of 3 worlds. And we are called Open SaaS solution for the fact that you can come to us for all those 3 options. And we are the only platform right now in the world that can cater for that. So once again, when you think about the options, there's no right or wrong. It's mostly about the comfortable position that you want to be in and how you want to operate your business. And at the same time, you need to be thinking, at the moment as a marketplace, are you trading direct to customer or you're trading to businesses as well? So that's another capability that you need to be considering whether your e-com platform will be able to pull the same thing. Okay. So, but I guess this is kind of just to explain where you would go and how you would go when it comes to actually selecting direct channel. But whether you are direct or on a marketplace, in the end of the day, the main question remains, how do you actually succeed online? Okay, so what does it actually take a seller to succeed online? Mustafa, I know we have a lot of conversations about it in our partnership day in, day out, discussing how can sellers do better. So what's your take on this?
It's a good point, and really good to have that insight. And if you think about what does it take to succeed online, so first and foremost, what is that what we're doing? We're selling, or sellers are selling product. So product and is the getting the functionality, driving the traffic, whether it marketplace, really good points in terms, marketplace, you're driving on the power of the marketplace. They're investing in that traffic for you, and you've got to optimize your listing, your storefront, your reviews, your customer service. And when you need to make that move to your own storefront, it's product is key, because they're coming for you, yes, the experience, and you're working it through, but ultimately they're looking for something and they want to transact on something, and they want it at a good price as well, and want to make sure what they buy comes through in that way in the time that you're telling them to do it. And what's been the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges this year, and only accelerated in the last few months, is getting hold of product. We've all sort of seen in the news stock shortages, scare factors of not being enough toys for Christmas, containers being stuck in the Suez Channel, containers being stuck in Asia, container costs going up. An average, going technical now, but a container cost a year ago used to cost $10,000 for a 40-foot. Now a container costs $20,000. So you can imagine if you've got those widgets coming on board, they're increasing. Everybody's got to divide that cost up into the price of that. Versus that, it's also logistically, you know, we've had issues with lorry drivers, transport, etc. So getting that product to the end consumer as well. And then that's just the recent nightmare of it. But ultimately, you want to be able to get product, you want to be able to have it, and be able to sell it to your customer base. And you either have great product yourself that you've invested in, that you've innovated, that you've created, that you've patented, or that you've sourced or curated in your own way and made it your own. And that's your own brand story, your own identity. And that's great if you've got that, because then you're getting that following and that traffic based on that premise of that great product that you've got. And either you're selling that first on marketplace because you're getting a positioning and you're using that, driving that traffic. And then, as you say, you want to take control of that margin because marketplaces can be expensive. And you want to now take more control of that and take more of that margin. It's expensive to drive traffic to your own store. Driving a click, for anybody who's done paid marketing, paid PPC campaigns, it's expensive to drive a click. And you have to make it worthwhile. So you have to get your own return on investment on that click and that marketing budget. So how do you do that? You have to make sure, A, they convert, and B, they keep converting or they grow their basket size. And by doing that, you need to make sure you've got the choice of products there that they'll convert onto. And then you've got to make sure that there's more range that they can buy more. So they can increase that basket size or come back to you because you've given them such a great experience in the first product that they'll buy more from you. But how do you do that? Because either the traditional way of doing that is that you're going to have to invest in stock. You're going to have to choose which line items are coming through, what's trending. If you're in the fashion industry, oh my God, you've got a real challenge because it's size, color, style, and it's constantly changing with fast fashion that's coming through. If you're in an industry where it's just 4 SKUs and you're stocking those 4 SKUs, great. You'll knock them out all day long. And that's a good business model if you can find that. But ultimately, you will need to expand your range and you'll need to expand your inventory. And that's what we're starting to see. And that's where we're seeing the success coming through is people who are expanding their range, investing in the traffic that's coming to the store, but by converting it and capitalizing it in the right way, by getting customers to come back to them and keep that stickiness in. And that's where Avasam really comes in and our integration with BigCommerce to make it super slick, super easy to be able to plug in the integration, plug in your storefront, get the Powered by API. So literally when you're in your BigCommerce dashboard, you've just got to install the little Avasam widget and you've got a catalog of 20, 30, 40,000 products there that you can automatically start sourcing and listing effortlessly with the click of a button. And then you can be confident because all of our suppliers have been vetted in the UK, verified. You know that product's what it is. It's got all the brand requirements. It's got all of the certifications. And then when the SLAs that you've sent on delivery times will be delivered in that way because it's already in the UK. So we're seeing that is the biggest challenge is getting your hands on product and then expanding your range. And customers are looking for ways of being creative on that. And it's only typically been available to the big guys. If you're Wayfair, your whole website is built on dropshipping. John Lewis are doing it in parts where, that furniture, you don't want to be stocking and storing furniture. It's so big and bulky. So you can dropship that through. And our platform enables that for the SMB and the sort of small, medium, large businesses, giving them that power and functionality into their own hands so they can start expanding their range in a credible way.
And so from where you sit, I'm just curious, Mustafa, with your clients, is it a mix of how many of them are selling just on marketplace, just on website, or using kind of a combination of both?
It's a really good point. I've got some great data I can share as well if we're good to get into that, to compare what happens between web stores and marketplaces. But I'd say it used to be 60-70% of our base were doing on marketplaces such as eBay and Amazon, and Wish and OnBuy. Now it's actually shifting the other way. We are seeing a lot more BigCommerce type sellers coming through, a lot more storefronts across all of those online web stores that Anna mentioned coming through based on what your preferences are. You know, some want a very plug and play, some people want a more creativity, but we're starting that shift to really grow towards web store presence because it's becoming complementary. You'll be on the marketplace exactly as you said, to get going, to get started, because you don't have to invest in the marketing budget. And then once you've got that confidence going, you're moving across. Or you're starting from the get-go on a store, you've got it and you're expanding it in. And as our inventory grows, we're starting to come through. But we're sort of saying about 50-50, I'd say.
Okay, that makes sense. Right.
There's some good praise going for you and Avasam, Mustafa, in the chat. Do have a look. My heart is very proud for the partners we have at BigCommerce right now. It's a good follow-up question. I actually had a couple of follow-up questions for both of you from what Mustafa said. Mustafa, you said like obviously products is the king. Products is what needs to be important. I would love for you to show the data that obviously you've prepared. I know you have some slides to show us, but maybe perhaps we can do it in line with. I have a question that I'm sure every marketplace, anyone who sells online has as their burning question. What is the top product for 2022? What should we be looking out for?
Yeah.
Putting you in the hot seat, Mustafa.
Can't get away. Home and garden is so hot. It's the biggest category wherever you look. And we've been, you'll see in the data that some of the other categories like health and beauty have been kicking in. Pets has been kicking in like crazy as well.
Mm-hmm.
But home and garden, no matter which marketplace you speak with, even look at our data and you'll see it in a minute. That is so hot. And within that, I'll give you an example. In 2019, what do you think, which subcategory do you think our top trending product was in?
In 2019.
Sorry, 2020, last year.
Electronics, let's say.
Home pasta maker.
Home pasta.
Nice one.
Wow.
I think we would have been bread maker as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Home cooking was so crazy, right? Last year with COVID. Our second top selling product was a beard trimmer because the salons were closed. So it was very much at that point, it was that being in the moment and with what was happening in the news and where stock shortages were, people who really were in tune with that and tapped into that really, really took off and saw that coming through. And as we've sort of grown, we've seen that spread happen again. Home and garden is still very hot, and it's that seasonality element comes through. So for example, right now, garden furniture covers are a really, really hot item. You know, people are coming in, working that through. So it's some of that you wouldn't even expect some of those hot items coming through. But when you look at what customers are looking for, where those shortages are, people focus in on that. And then, and that's when, you know, sort of really going for trending and seasonal items. And if you're focusing on a particular store and a particular story and theme, then it's all up to you. It's all about what you're passionate about, where your influencer base is, where you're driving traffic from. And again, within home, we're seeing a lot more because people are doing up their own spaces. They're doing up a lot more working from home happening at the moment. One of the examples I'll show is a home decor site, which is just purely built on mirrors and wall art that's coming through because people are investing in their home spaces. So I'd say home and garden category. Garden, obviously, when it's seasonality comes in, but home, you cannot go wrong.
You know, it's actually funny you say that because I was having a conversation with a client of ours today and kind of in line with that. They sell backyard play sets for children, and they are selling at all-time highs right now. So, I mean, their strongest months were in October and November. When you think about it, it's a more seasonal spring-summer product, right? Because it's outdoors focused, but again, I think in the same line of thinking, it's we're really thinking about that, just the outdoors and, you know, the garden and that sort of thing.
There's actually a good question. So when we talk about products, there's one question in the chat. Avasam, where do you guys? So obviously UK is huge, and this is how we're developing with you guys. What's your outlook for other regions, especially US has come up as a question. Do you do anything in US yet?
Not as yet, but we'd love to sort of. It's definitely on our roadmap that we'll be looking into it. With us, it's a marketplace, so you got to have both. You got to have product, and you got to have the seller base as well. We've got a great partnership with BigCommerce, and BigCommerce's presence in the US is very large. And as we've been building up our supplier base, a lot of our suppliers have a very big footprint in the US as well. So our pieces are coming through. We've been very busy in the UK over the last year, building that presence up, and we're hoping that to be able to launch new markets in the hopefully not too long future.
So, okay, so let's look at that wonderful data. I want to see it as well. I know you've prepared some juicy stats for us. Let's excite everyone with some analytics. Everyone loves some analytics, don't we?
Perfect. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
We can.
I'll go into presentation mode. I won't be able to see you, but hopefully you can see the data. So what we've got here is this is traffic. We've taken sort of aggregated data across our base over the last 6 months to be able to sort of share high-level trends, what it sort of takes to break through 100 monthly orders if you're early stage in it, and then some of the product picks and areas that sort of come through from what we've sort of seen. So if we look at it, I think leaning into some of the points I mentioned, if we look at our base, what I've tried to do here is show that comparison, because we are looking at coming from marketplaces onto web stores, to show that comparison of, how it does change up a bit. So here we've got, so a lot of our data in terms of our top trending categories. And you can see here, as I was saying, home and garden is a super hot category. Bulk of business on web stores is taken up even more of a base there. Then comes health and beauty, packaging, baby and children, fashion, lifestyle, and pet is emerging. I think stat I mentioned is about 10 million new pets last year. So during the year that sort of people have embraced and brought into their homes. And that's created a whole, not created, but expanded and accelerated a whole category of its own there. C, computer electronics and PPE has always been there, and PPE is coming back. We're seeing a lot of sellers coming through riding the PPE train. And then the office supplies and stationery, a lot of that as the work from home comes through. But that sort of gives you an idea between sales channels and web store traffic. And this is in terms of unique products sold by category. So, when you look at it in a cross sales channel, fashion and lifestyle comes through because, again, as I mentioned, you've got a lot more SKUs, color, size, and that sort of grows disproportionately. And it's a lot more complex business to run. Home and garden then shrinks them because you may have fewer SKUs coming through. Same thing with health and beauty as well in terms of sizes and the like. This is a super interesting one in terms of average order value. And we're seeing that constantly change and evolve over the time. If we look at it in terms of all sales channels, which is aggregated with marketplace on the right side, web stores only, you've got that ability where on average, we're sort of seeing our average order value between 18 to 20 pounds. And people need that sort of basis, especially you can sort of see on the left-hand side when marketplace traffic comes into it, slightly higher. Because in marketplaces, you do have to cover the fee, those areas coming through, and you need to make sure your sale is sustainable. On the right web stores, you can be a bit more creative. Your fees can be a little bit more based on your own costs of acquisition and processing. So you can be a bit more creative in terms of your order value and go for maybe potentially high volume, low value, or you could choose a strategy which is higher value, lower volume. So that gives you a bit of an idea across the different sectors. Obviously, sectors or categories like jewelry and accessories, much higher average order value that comes through there. This one's a really interesting one when it comes down to margin, because we can obviously see sales price and we can see the purchase price. Then we can sort of see margin across the platform between all sales channels, again, marketplace predominantly, and then web stores on the right hand side. And this dovetails into the point I mentioned before. Marketplaces take a fee. There's a listing fee, a selling fee. Sometimes there's a promo fee as well. So you have to make sure your margins can cover that. And you can sort of see this general piece where it's above 20%. And the other thing is with marketplace, it can quite often be a race to the bottom where price transparency is super clear. So you're really up against that next store. Whereas web stores, again, you've got that little bit of flexibility on pricing. You've driven the traffic in, they're coming to you for something special or product category, or the way you marketed yourself. And you've got that ability to be a bit more creative on pricing to get them through. And, you could have some loss leader products in there to be able to drive that traffic in because you don't have to pay the marketplace fees. I'll pause there for any questions that have come through. Sorry, I can't see the screen, but Anna, maybe you might be able to let me know if there's any questions coming through on the data.
There's no questions, but there's one question for me because this is really, really great stats. I guess what are the defining metrics to look out for? Let's say I'm a seller and I'm selling within different ones, and I guess it's really great to see the direct channel versus the marketplace. But when we are thinking about metrics and things, what would be your advice that obviously a merchant can concentrate on when it comes to this kind of things?
I think you really need to get the trading. A lot of mistakes we find sellers find, they start selling straight away, doing the promo, doing a PPC campaign in isolation, or doing a promo campaign on the marketplace, got the product in, but they haven't sometimes looked at the unit economics for their product, saying how much exactly is it costing me to get that traffic in or that conversion in? What is my purchase price? And then how much margin am I making through? So I'd say the hero metric here is margin is a very important point to make sure after your marketing costs, you are covering it through. Or if it's a breaking even point because you want to drive the traffic in to convert them again, either through retargeting, remarketing, or other products, that you're aware of that. But a lot of the time people see the sales coming through and the cash coming through. But when they do their profit and loss at the end of the month or end of the quarter, they realize, well, actually the profit has been diminished. So keep a handle on your margin and make sure your strategy is clear on if you are going on low margin, you understand how you're driving traffic through, you're getting it efficiently to be able to drive profit for you.
I think that actually that's a great point as it relates to us too on the capital side of things, Mustafa, because everything you just mentioned, it is exactly what we look for, right? When we're analyzing a business, assessing the business to be able to offer funding, we look at exactly that. So what's the strategy? What's the approach? Is there intention behind this capital, right, that they're taking on? So I think that's critically important. So matching what the cost of that capital is to the projected or expected ROI, right, return on investment, what the profit margin expectation is going to be based on that capital that you're borrowing to make that investment to begin with.
Absolutely. And building on that point, it's, margin is one thing, but then cash is king. And there's timing delays. People don't appreciate when you start trading, you think it's instantaneous, but marketplaces can have a timing delay between 2 to 4 days or even more potentially sometimes, where it takes time for that cash to come through. Good thing is if you're drop shipping only, then you're not as tied with tying that capital up into stock, so you can be a bit more fluid there. But still, you don't want to be over trading, whereby how much you spent on either that marketing budget coming through versus having the funds come through from your marketplace to manage that cash flow in the right way.
Exactly.
Well, that's definitely one of the reasons why we love working with you, because with merchants, big or small, whenever you need additional products and that additional capital, you don't have to wait. You can just literally plug and play Avasam through BigCommerce and you're ready to go. So whether you're just starting out online, so I guess that's going back to question how to actually make yourself successful online, isn't it, Mustafa, that we were saying that you can just basically start with a basic product catalog that you can select and that you can top up with obviously whatever you're producing, whether you're in fashion or in home and garden, as we said, you can always stop that product range and actually top up the margins to make your business grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And this point, just when we look at some of the comparative marketplaces storefront, it's a case of the margin difference is absolutely in there as well. And our sellers obviously through learnings or insight and are very much in tune with that and manage their pricing and the margin point in that way, so they can actually protect themselves also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead, Mustafa.
No, go for it, Leo.
No, I was just going to shift gears briefly and actually turn over to Anna. Anna, there was a question that came in on the chat, just shifting back towards platforms, right? And as sellers kind of, hit that crossroads in their journey where they do want to consider, adding joining a platform. So what are some of the advantages you would say, and what are some of the points that they should consider when, and how to select the right platform to work with?
Yeah, so obviously we kind of talked at the introduction stage in terms of what are the different types of the platforms out there. There's obviously so many platforms to choose from. And I guess one of the main reasons sellers of all sizes come to BigCommerce is really the ownership of the platform, right? So an ability to convert without any limitation. So without being big-headed for BigCommerce and the love for BigCommerce, but we do tend to say that we are the fastest platform out there, which means that obviously no matter how many product categories you're gonna have, they're gonna load much faster. And when you operate in catalogs of great sizes, that's obviously a very, very important thing. There's no more annoying thing in the world than actually sitting on a website that loads at a turtle pace. What happens? Conversions drop, right? So, and obviously having come off the marketplace where they have the capability of the tech that allows you to load really quickly, that's really, really important. Second thing I would say is that out of all the platforms out there, we are probably the leading platform when it comes to actually categorization and the number of categories you want to put in there. I believe one of you mentioned SKUs at the beginning. So let's take a basic example of t-shirt, right? So obviously they are always popular. It's always one of the kind of products that we get a lot of. And I'm not just saying just t-shirt, but just like, let's take it as a basic example where you have different colorways. You have 4 sizes, then you want to do women's, men's, and kids, right? So all of that. And if you have different ranges of products as well, all of that really needs to be categorized to be searchable really quickly. And once again, so this is where I guess a relationship with marketplace sellers is really great for us and really strong, in the sense that if you're selling different products and you want to have different stores, we can cater that within obviously BigCommerce. So we're able to cater for multi-store and multi-channel as well, and multi-language as well. So the capability of the BigCommerce is much stronger than some of the other platforms that are out there, enabling you to grow in different directions and different sections as well. Okay, and then with obviously with the help of the likes of Avasam, not only you'll be able to trade in your own products, but you'll be able to fill the categories that you want to fill as well. And we quite frequently get asked about the cost of the platform and the hosting of the platform, whatnot. So we actually usually what we do, and actually maybe I should show you this on the slide that I've also prepared as an assistance in terms of explaining how the traditional platforms work versus what obviously BigCommerce does as a top level. So traditionally, whether once again, you're open source or whether you're on a SaaS, there's always a challenge of obviously the actual platform costs, right? So the actual platform cost and the applications that go and plug into obviously your platform. And that's not talking about the maintenance that you have to go throughout, probably like, monthly basis to yearly basis, depending on what changes are happening. So all of that takes time and disrupts the platform, and obviously effectively that starts affecting your conversion rates. And then of course there's continuous development in the sense of obviously adding new products and whatever not. So all of that traditionally eats into your profits, it eats into your costs, and obviously eventually starts eating into your customer relationships as well. Whereas at the end, the merchant is left with little revenue to actually spend on those all-important PR and marketing opportunities. Whereas what we've done with our open SaaS platform, we flipped the whole thing upside down, letting you concentrate as much as you need to as a business on the marketing and the revenue, driving marketing and revenue opportunities for the business, right? This is where the most of your investment goes, because once again, with us, you will always have the total cost of ownership of the platform, because everything is hosted on our SaaS platform. You will always own the back end of the platform. You will always own your front end of the platform, and you will always be in charge of changes that you need to be making, not relying on obviously engineering support, and not relying on obviously hefty costs of having those obviously e-com platforms. I know today Gary actually said that he comes from an engineering background. Of course, if you're a legend like him and you are able to do that, of course you can choose whatever is out there. But as I said at the beginning, we can do open source where you can build your own thing, or once again, go with the SaaS route and obviously add headless in the end of it, which means that you will never outgrow the platform. You will never have the need to re-platform ever again, starting from real small and growing your business into something real big. So once again, when it comes to a question being always asked, frequently asked, like what does it actually cost? We're one of the most cost-effective platforms out there. We're one of the fastest one. And once again, something that we love to talk about is the fact that you obviously will always have the total cost of ownership. AKA, let us concentrate on the technology side of things. You concentrate on driving revenues, and then we can work on the developments together. So that's I would say the key areas for me, in a sense of when you select a platform and how you select a platform. But of course, there are multiple other areas to consider, because obviously if you come from a marketplace, you know how to sell on a marketplace. We're not saying stop marketplace. What we're saying is that you've grown to a size where you want to own your customers as well as your business. So by moving to a direct channel and starting a direct channel, not only will you be able to connect all of those platforms. So we work with the likes of Amazon. So the ones that are obviously the platforms that Mustafa was just showing earlier on his slide, the likes of Amazon, Etsy, eBay, we connect with all of them. So we connect with all of them. So what that means, you'll be able to drive analytics and push your products directly from BigCommerce directly into those channels. and you'll be able to drive analytics from what you're selling and where you're selling and what performs the best. Going back to, again, what Mustafa was saying, it's really important where you perform the best and what products perform the best to make your business grow. Okay, so all of that analytics will be able to be found through BigCommerce. And then lastly, if you're considering obviously the likes of social media channels, we also have direct integrations with the likes of Facebook, TikTok. Obviously, as the world gets younger, as I like to say, we all consider different methods of selling and different ways of reaching out to your customers. So not only will you get wider and further channels in the sense of not just the marketplace, right? You will start bringing your customers from the marketplace and actually owning those customers, starting building your CRM and obviously more targeted and tailored marketing to those specific customers that you're winning, all through one channel, one source of truth. Okay. So I guess in summary, when you're considering the platform, consider the functionality that it has, consider the integration that it has, consider what it can do for you in the long term. Don't just think about 12 to 18 months. Think about where are you going to be in 4 years' time when you have grown to million plus or millions plus of revenue. And how is that platform going to support you? Because a replatforming is a very challenging exercise for anyone out there, and as we know, there's a lot that takes to replatform, and a lot of disruptions obviously happen within the space, but it doesn't have to be like that. It can be very straightforward, where you can basically have one source of truth and expand your business beyond the marketplace. Anyone wants to add anything to that? I feel like that was a good monologue.
That was great, very helpful. I feel like I learned a couple of things there too. So thank you for that, Anna. Appreciate it. I would just add from our perspective too is, what SellersFunding is able to do is support you through that entire journey, right? Through that transition as well. I think that, more and more, as Mustafa and Anna both cited, as we see, a lot of sellers not make the switch, but diversify, right? Away from or beyond, let's say, marketplace into other sales channels. We've been able to support them kind of in that transition with, I think, the three main costs that we see sellers experience as they're kind of transitioning into a web store, a direct platform, is replatforming, right? So kind of all of the points that Anna had just mentioned, we're able to facilitate capital for you to be able to do that in a cost-effective way and in a way that doesn't disrupt cash flow for the business, so you can get up and running as quickly as possible. And then secondly, again, on the advertising front, right? So marketing is going to be a big component of your budget if you're transitioning or moving towards an omni-channel, a platform type of sales channel. And then lastly, the constant is inventory, right? So being able to continue having that cash flow and funding available for your business to support you throughout that transition, so that you're kind of not missing a beat, right, as you're implementing that new channel for the business.
Absolutely. Actually, one of the things that I wanted to ask you for this conversation is, like, what are the kind of top 3 funding business needs to consider when they're starting their own store? So you mentioned obviously a couple of things, right? So you mentioned obviously the replatforming is a big one. I think you mentioned the inventory. So what else do you guys fund? Just so obviously it's a bit clear in terms of what kind of funds can they reach out to you when they start their own business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are, I guess, spend agnostic, if that makes sense. So we're indifferent to what the business is using that capital for, of course, as long as it's going towards the business specifically, right? The most common spends that we see are replatforming, inventory, and marketing, right? But that's not to say that there aren't other related spends that we see businesses use this capital for, right? So we can support them regardless of kind of what they need that capital for. What's most important is that, as I had mentioned earlier, that it's being used with intention, right? With purpose. So it's for a specific project, whether it's investing in a new product line, whether it's R&D, whether it's expanding not only to a new platform, but maybe a new region, right? A new market that they're trying to access. So we can support sellers kind of throughout that journey in kind of all of these initiatives that they'd be implementing for their business.
Absolutely. Well, we've got the funding, we've got the platform. So next question is, Mustafa, when is the right time to move direct? When is the time?
I think you can just do it straight away. We've got some good. So I think I want to sum it up in three words, right? So consumers are looking for flexibility, choice, and convenience. That's what they want. And so it's very important for you as a business to build up your partner ecosystem with those same criteria. And I think BigCommerce, I remember when your CEO spoke, Brent spoke, it was like, it's all about flexibility in the open SaaS disruptive way. Leo, what you're telling me with SellersFunding is gives you that choice in terms of different options of where you're coming through with your funding options. And then you want that flexibility to be able to change your stock, your product set, expand your inventory in that way without being tied into a particular area, because it's all about test and learn. And that's where Avasam comes in. And I think if you can get those three components together, the time is now. You can start straight away. Your cost to launch can be very low. And we've seen some fantastic case studies. I'll bring this one particular up because it's one of my favorites ones. And this is a particular store that was been built on BigCommerce. And all of the product, a lot of the product has been sourced from Avasam. And it's the one I mentioned where they started on BigCommerce as their first strategy. They didn't go marketplace to storefront. They started on the storefront. And over time, they've been building up a fantastic trajectory of sales. And they took about 3-4 months to get some good traction. And they're now seeing that real good momentum because they've just invested the time. So as long as you're willing to invest the time, you can make it happen now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so that's really interesting. So, okay, so follow-up question. Let's say you got online, you reached 2 million. What kind of funding will we need then? So what are we looking for a growth? So we got online, we've got the amazing platform, everything's functioning great. What else should we be thinking of in the, let's say, 18 months, 2 years down the line, Leo?
Yeah, I think that the funding needs remain constant, right? At the end of the day, it's still, you're kind of looking at the same line items, right, for the business. So being able to, improve your profit margin, and the way that you're going to be able to do that and accelerate your growth as quickly as possible, that's where introducing modest leverage can support you on that journey, right? So being able to basically, so business, if looking to grow organically, is only going to grow as quickly as their profit margin, right? So the money that they have available to invest back in their business, let's say. So if they're able to, in an efficient and cost-effective way, introduce outside capital to that mechanism, to that entire process, again, whether irrespective of what that money is going towards, right? As long as it's going towards something that has a positive ROI, so increasing advertising, buying additional stock for the business, I think that's what's going to be able to help businesses scale at a much faster rate. And that's what we see with a lot of our clients, that are at that level. So mid-market to enterprise that are doing 2, 5, 10 million plus in annual sales. It's really, okay, so I've gotten the business this far. How do I just, 2x it, 3x it, just really ramp it up from here? Now, there are a number of different variables that come into play and that will kind of input into that formula. But the way that we assist our clients in kind of that journey is via, that modest leverage, let's say, to be able to really ramp things up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we see the same thing when a business been selling traditionally to a customer, right? And then I might potentially been selling this in the marketplace. And when you start differentiating between a customer and obviously a B2B business, you really scale up the number of products you're shipping, the number of products obviously being bought. And it's really important to have a differentiation between a B2C channel and a B2B channel, and how basically those get funded as you expand or decide to move into that direction, because obviously the amount of products you'll be acquiring goes bigger. And for us, what we see as well, and I know I've touched on analytics a little bit already, I think for you, obviously, and it goes to kind of showing the information for funding and whatnot, for a business to actually grow, I think analytics is very important, and understanding where you're performing well, how you're performing there, and how do you actually scale with that information, and what investment is required to scale. And I think that's what makes an e-commerce platform very different to anything that is out there, is by having one source of truth for all of those for all of that information that you can actually go back and present to a funding company like yourself to say, hey, this is how we want to grow and this is how we've been performing. So rather than running, obviously, I know some of your merchants might be running spreadsheets in a traditional more environment, whereas no longer you will be needing to do that. And whether you're trading once again through a marketplace and using BigCommerce as a window, or whether you're starting to use more BigCommerce as a direct channel to actually own those customers, you'll be able to pull all those different informations from different places to actually take back to the investment. So
yeah, you're exactly right, and it's something that is hugely factored into kind of our assessment or underwriting process as well, right? So again, still early on from a data standpoint, but what we're starting to see, the pattern that's emerging is merchant sellers that are not only in marketplace but diversified across other channels as well. Are already showing early signs of better profit margins, and then two, from our perspective as well, it shows it's a more secure business, right? So the analogy that I like to use is, if you're only selling via one channel, let's say you're sitting on a one-legged stool, right? And especially if that channel is a marketplace, which folks who may be familiar on this line know that there are a lot of challenges that can kind of come quite abruptly and quickly, right? With selling on a marketplace, right? Your store being suspended, or a number of other restrictions that can be introduced. That if that's all that you're depending on and relying on, if that one leg is kicked up from underneath you, you're in a very difficult position, right? Whereas if you have a couple of legs that you can stand on, it fortifies your business, it solidifies your business, and puts it in a much better position to succeed in the long run.
Absolutely. And then of course there's always like, okay, if you've started selling online, there's always an opportunity to go and sell offline as well, as the normality comes back to our lives and the world is kind of reversing into the more traditional ways. There's always that channel to consider, because I know there's death of high street and people say that, but being a traditional shopper, I love to go and touch and feel things. So, and once again, by sourcing products from dropshipping, it doesn't mean you can just do it online, right? You can do it offline as well, and bring those wonderful products into your shops and whatnot. So, and that's another thing to consider for anyone that is looking to expand, is how do you actually do a pop-up store, for example, or how do you do a store as in general, like something that you maybe want to show off on high street, and how do you actually monitor that information, and how do you actually bridge that together with what you're doing online already successfully. So there's all those things to consider when you're thinking of a long-term opportunities, whether it's investment or whether it's selection of the platform. So how do you actually sync the products, and how do you sync them from various places? And most importantly, how do you actually load new product catalogs and things like that? What is the complexity behind that? How easy it is to navigate, how easy it is once again to categorize those, and how easy it is to actually deliver those to your customers, right? So all of those things are really, really important to consider. Well, actually, I think just to kind of start wrapping up, I want to say we actually have an amazing deal going on for anyone that wants to try it out. So we actually have a very simple way of trying things with BigCommerce and Avasam. So you can actually start a free trial today. So you don't need to go and commit to things. I know it's Christmas period and you'll have some time in between the turkeys and the New Year fireworks to actually trial and experiment things. So currently we're actually running 1 month free through SellersFunding, where you'll be able to connect Avasam to trial out how that integration works, to trial out what actually BigCommerce looks like from the back end. Get in touch if you have any questions. We'll be very, very happy to kind of show you around, tell you a little bit more, because obviously we kept things quite top level today, just to kind of give you a bit of a spice and excitement before the Christmas, and to kind of get you thinking about all things, amazing things you can be doing in 2022. And of course, I'm super grateful for my colleagues, partners in the industry. Avasam, Mustafa, thank you so much. Leo, thank you so much for organizing and telling us more about SellersFunding, and obviously how three of us can be making amazing things for our dear merchants, whether you're on a marketplace or whether you're already selling directly and looking for new tech stacks. Any questions, guys? We've been quite quiet on the chat the last half an hour, so we just want to leave, I guess, last 5 minutes to see if there are any questions in the chat. Anything that you guys want to follow up? We have additional slides for the last 5 minutes. Oh, being pretty quiet. I guess it's Wednesday. Christmas parties are on.
I think we nailed it, guys. We just did such a good job. There are no questions. So.
Perfect. Well, I guess it's a wrap from me, guys. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, from my end, just thank you both, Anna and Mustafa. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys for the past hour. And thank you everyone else for joining and listening in.
Likewise, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure, and we've got my email address there, and I think we've shared through some of the support on the chat handles as well. So please reach out to our team. Great, fantastic customer support team if you've got any questions or issues with integrations or setting up or sourcing product.
And wish everyone a happy holidays and a happy new year.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. I guess that's a wrap. Have an amazing holidays, and thank you so much for listening to us tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Bye-bye.